I think this is probably the case a good 80% of the time. He, in this case, your husband, it's very likely, and you can pick his brain to verify this if you want. It's very likely that he knew something was off as a child. And it's very likely that to one degree or another, he got ostracized, teased, bullied, couldn't quite fit in. He wanted to fit in. Most autistic people, kids, we're talking about kids now, they want to fit in. And some of them learn to mask and do fit in. But that's very anxiety provoking and it's exhausting and it's a rough way to live. Others have tried to fit in and they couldn't fit in and they just say, fuck it. And they just become an independent person, become very autonomous and get engrossed in their special activity and their games and their video games and whatnot and totally detached from everybody. And then others want to fit in and keep trying to fit in even as adults and have made peace with the fact that, and the people that know him well have made peace with the fact that he's just an oddball, he's just kind of weird, and he's going to say stuff that is going to be kind of rude and inappropriate from time to time, but he just goes ahead and trips along through life and tries to fit in, and he knows he's awkward socially and honestly doesn't really care. So anyway, as a child, this person grows up, probably was classified as a problem child by his parents, probably classified at some degree as a problem student by teachers. And so he quickly was on the receiving end of so much disapproval that his self-worth tanked, basically went to the toilet. And so now we fast forward to today, and if you have said some totally neutral things to him, or if you have offered some what you thought was constructive criticism, and certainly when you've delivered some full-blown criticism, he already has low self-worth. And so when you say anything that he downloads as critical, he views that as a threat to his already small sense of self-worth. And then, as you have probably experienced many times, you get an overreaction. It's like, if there was an objective third party watching the two of you conversing, and this objective third party heard your comment, he or she would probably say, yeah, that was totally 100% neutral. There wasn't an ounce of criticism or cynicism or sarcasm in there, but he still downloaded his criticism. It's because he's hypersensitive due to low self-worth. He's always on alert for threats to his already low self-worth. And I like to use the analogy of a sunburn. Let's say, for example, you went to the beach, you weren't necessarily prepared, you were out there all day, you thought you were fine. The next day, or even through the night, you realize you have a terrible sunburn, maybe even, second-degree burns, super red, super sore. And somebody comes along and taps you on the shoulder because they want to get your attention, and you, ow, God damn, whoa, what? And you're like shocked at this severe overreaction, caught you by surprise. And he tells you, well, I've got this sunburn, and serious sunburn, and all it did was all you had to do was one little touch. And this person with the sunburn severely overreacted. And that's the same thing that happens with your neutral comments. It's just a light touch. But he's someone with a severe sunburn, severe low self-worth. So it only takes a little hint of a download, but you're a threat. Just a hint, a pinch, a touch, and boom, he's in fight or flight mode instantly, and now you're on the receiving end of a meltdown or a shutdown. Sounds a bit melodramatic and exaggeratory, perhaps. Not in most cases. Now, I'm not saying, the reason I wanted to tell you all that is because I wanted you to feel sorry for him or let him off the hook. No, he's very much on the hook, whether he wants to be or you want him to be or not. But it might be appropriate in the cases that you recognize his hypersensitivity due to his self-worth being in the toilet, to maybe in those moments, if you're so inclined, to extend a little grace and mercy. But I just want you to let you know that a good 80% plus, he He has wounded child issues that haunt him today. You would want to go back and do some childhood repair. You would want to look at the abuse that happened. You would want to look at the subsequent faulty belief systems that occurred due to the abuse. You would want to look at the thinking errors that resulted from the faulty belief systems. You would want to look for the negative emotions and negative behavior that resulted from the thinking errors. So you have to kind of reverse engineer and go way back to childhood and do some childhood repair stuff. And then now you have a good therapist would actually rewire his brain in the fullest sense of the phrase, because he would get some insight in the brain. There's some neuroplasticity. So with this new insight for him, then he would get some other neural pathways that might help come up with some better belief systems, some better ways to process things, which would result in less toxic emotions and the final step that you want to see, less problematic behavior.